Drama awaits, only on Echoes of Love. Our movie begins with Eddie trying to kill himself from his balcony while some people are trying to break into his apartment to murder him. Then he starts narrating the events that led him to the situation he's in now. This is Eddie in the past, divorced, an alcoholic, and a failed writer with absolutely no idea how to write. He would sit for weeks, maybe even months, unable to write a single word in his new book. The only person in his life was Lindy, his ex-girlfriend, who tried to help him as much as she could. Eddie meets Vernon, his ex-wife's brother, somewhere to catch up, and discovers that his life is a complete mess. Vernon tells him that he works as a consultant for a pharmaceutical company and that he's going to give him a pill that's an exclusive product of his company, approved by the FDA. He explains that the average human being uses only 20% of his brain's capacity, but this pill allows a person to access 100% of it. He adds that each pill costs $100. Out of curiosity, Eddie agrees to take the pill from Vernon. At his apartment door, he decides to actually take it. There, he meets his landlady, who demands her rent. The pill starts to take effect, his mind expands enormously, and he becomes acutely aware of every little detail around him. A book in the landlady's bag catches his attention, and he suddenly remembers seeing it 12 years ago at the university, amazed by his ability to recall such a tiny detail. He starts talking with her about law school and the most prominent law book authors, which surprises and impresses her. Then he offers to help her, and within 25 minutes, he has written her a full article that amazes her completely. He leaves her and enters his apartment, wondering how he could live in such a place. He starts cleaning, organizing, and washing dishes, in a state of mental clarity and incredible ability to focus on multiple things at once. After that, he tries to continue writing his book, the one he hadn't written a single word in before, then falls asleep. The next day, he wakes up back to his old self, unable to do anything as usual. He takes what he wrote and goes to his editor at the publishing house, who had already lost hope in his ability to write. He offers her to read just 2 or 3 pages, and if she doesn't like them, he'll return the advance payment he had received. As soon as he gets home, he finds a message from the editor saying that she has read more than 40 pages and is still reading, and that the book is absolutely brilliant. Eddie decides then to go to Vernon to get another pill. When he arrives, he finds Vernon beaten up, his face disfigured. Vernon tells him that the pills were made in a secret lab and that their being legal was nothing but a lie. But Eddie insists on getting them, saying he needs them to finish his book. Vernon agrees to give him the pills in exchange for Eddie going down to get his suit and breakfast because he can't go himself. Eddie goes down, but when he comes back, he finds the apartment door open, the place completely ransacked, and Vernon murdered. He calls the police but decides at the same time to search for the pills before they arrive. Knowing that Vernon didn't know how to cook, he thinks of checking the oven, and indeed finds the pills, the money, and a notebook containing the phone numbers of Vernon's clients. He takes them all. The police arrive, question him, take his phone number, and then let him go. Eddie starts a new life. He pays attention to his looks and clothes and divides the pills so he only takes 1 per day. With the pills' help, he finishes writing a whole book in just 4 days. But his ambition doesn't stop there. He decides to make more money than what writing, which barely brings him any profit, can offer. So he turns to the stock market and manages, within only 4 days, to multiply his money 5 times. But he needs a larger capital to earn more, and when the bank refuses to give him a loan without collateral, he turns to a man named Gennady, who lends money with high interest. He borrows $100,000 and uses it in trading, which he learned from his friend Kevin, who also works in the stock market. He works in a temporary trading company, and within a week, his stock account balance exceeds $2 million. This rapid success makes him famous in the financial world. Job offers, TV interviews, and news coverage start pouring in. He even manages to restore his relationship with his girlfriend Lindy. Then comes what he has been waiting for, a meeting with one of the biggest figures in the stock market, the genius Carl. But at the same time, he notices that someone seems to be watching him constantly. Eddie meets Mr. Carl and begins explaining his way of thinking and working, saying that he relies on a unique algorithm that was the reason for his success in the stock market. Carl offers to give him a ride home, and on the way, hands him a file containing data about 2 of the largest energy companies, asking him to review them and share his opinion. As soon as Eddie gets home, he finishes analyzing the file and tells him that it's impossible to control the energy market without controlling those two companies, or at least the larger one of them, because its loss would mean losing the entire market. Carl is impressed by his analysis and agrees to meet again to continue the discussion. Eddie goes out for a walk but suddenly loses his sense of time, finding himself having walked more than 20 blocks without realizing it. He keeps walking unconsciously until he realizes that he has lost his memory for a full 18 hours, remembering only that he spent the night with a woman he met in a hotel. For the first time, he tries to live without the pill's effect, because of the side effects that have recently begun to appear. He tries to review the energy company files but fails, and goes to meet Carl without taking the pill, completely unfocused and unprepared to talk about anything related to those companies. Eddie hears news about the murder of a fashion model in a hotel, and when he sees her picture, he realizes that she's the same woman he spent the night with there. But he can't remember what happened afterward. He's unable to continue the meeting with Carl, so he rushes home. There, he finds a message from his ex-wife Melissa, warning him not to have taken anything from Vernon before his death. He calls her immediately and asks to meet her for something urgent, and she agrees. After ending the call with her, he tries to contact one of Vernon's clients whose names he had written in the notebook, but he discovers that all of them are either dead or lying in intensive care, except for the last name on the list. He calls that number, but hears the phone ringing right beside him, and is shocked to realize that the man who has been following him is the one answering. The man tries to kill him, but Eddie manages to escape. He goes to a restaurant to meet Melissa, and finds that her condition has severely deteriorated because of the pills. She tells him that she learned that anyone who tries to stop taking them becomes worse and loses focus, and that he must gradually reduce the doses, otherwise, he'll die just like the others. Then she says goodbye to him. But before Eddie returns home, Gennady appears and attacks him for being late in paying back the money as they had agreed. One of Eddie's pills falls to the ground. Gennady picks it up, decides to try it, swallows it, takes his money, and leaves him there. Eddie's condition begins to worsen, so he turns to Lindy and goes to her workplace, asking her to bring him the pills he had hidden at her house. She's forced to leave him in her office and go to get them. On her way back, she notices that someone is following her. He attacks her, but she manages to escape and calls Eddie to tell him what happened. He tells her to take one of the pills she has with her so she can get away from him. She follows his advice and takes the pill, and indeed, she's able to escape and return to Eddie with the pills. Eddie returns to his normal state again, only to find that Gennady has also returned, now demanding more pills after experiencing their incredible effect. Eddie gives him a few to satisfy him temporarily and get rid of him. A short while later, Gennady comes back, wanting to do business with him again. After 2 months of using the pills, Eddie becomes the head of the largest management corporation in history. He tries to balance his life by reducing his doses, quitting alcohol, and taking care of his health. To make sure the pills never run out, he makes a deal with a private lab to attempt producing identical ones with the same ingredients and effect. Then, a police inspector visits him to question him about the murder of the fashion model, since one of the witnesses had identified him as the last person seen with her at the hotel. But soon, he's released for lack of any fingerprints in her room. He returns to his apartment only to find it completely ransacked, forcing him to rent a new one equipped with a safe, security cameras, a reinforced door, and a full security system. Then comes the board meeting at one of the energy companies that Carl wants to acquire. They wait for the company's owner, Mr. Todt, to arrive and sign the merger, or rather, the surrender of his company to Carl, but they are surprised when Todt's wife arrives and tells them that her husband is hospitalized in critical condition and will sign the contract once he recovers. They accompany her to her car, and there Eddie is stunned to realize that her driver is the same man who had been following him and had tried to kill both him and Lindy. Eddie realizes that Mr. Todt is in the hospital because he stopped taking the pills and deduces that he, too, was one of those who got them from Vernon. Later, he's summoned to a police lineup before the witness who had seen him with the model, accompanied by Morris, one of the top lawyers in the state. After the session, he's released when the witness fails to identify him. Eddie then learns that Todt has fallen into a coma, which halts the merger with Carl until his recovery. But he suddenly discovers that the pills have disappeared from his jacket pocket. He rushes home and makes some calls to check on the matter, only to find out that Morris is Todt's attorney, and guesses that he must have stolen the pills from his jacket. While he's still processing this, there's a knock on the door. He opens it to find Gennady, furious because Eddie missed their delivery deadline, and this time he's come for revenge. Eddie decides to commit suicide, but at the last moment, he desperately searches for any pill that might save him from Gennady, only to find none. He's forced to fight him and kills him, then drinks his blood, as the pill's effect was still active in his system, regaining his strength and managing to kill Gennady's men. Eddie discovers that Mr. Todt has died, so he goes to his driver and tells him that the pills were stolen from him by Morris, Todt's lawyer, and wonders how Todt could have died unless the lawyer had coveted the pills and taken them for himself. Shortly afterward, the lawyer is found murdered, and the pills return to Eddie once again. 6 months later, Eddie runs for the New York State elections and publishes his book, which becomes a bestseller. One day, he receives a visit from a guest, the owner of Iveron Pharmaceuticals, one of the biggest sponsors of his campaign. When Eddie meets him, he's surprised to find that it's Carl. Carl starts threatening him, saying that he knows the secret of the pills and that Eddie only achieved his current position because of them. He adds that he bought an entire pharmaceutical company as soon as he learned about the pills, and that he can stop their production whenever he wants if Eddie doesn't follow his orders. But Eddie, calm and confident, tells him that he isn't naive enough to have reached such a position while still being dependent on the pills, because he got rid of them completely. He adds that the real danger isn't him, but Carl himself, because he's far more intelligent and possesses information capable of putting Carl behind bars, and that the only thing Carl could ever use to control him has completely disappeared from his life. Here we reach the end of the video. Subscribe for more.